Everybody ready? Everybody ready? Good evening, and welcome to the August meeting of the Escambia County School Board. Whether you are joining us here in person or via our live stream, we're glad to have you with us and appreciate your interest in the education of the students of Escambia County. I remind you that if you wish to speak at tonight's public forum or at our public hearing or to an agenda item, you need to complete one of the forms that you'll find on the table at the back of the room. And on the back of the forms, there used to be the rules. Some of these don't have it. Are we not putting those on the back anymore? It's just some of them don't. Maybe the ones that are on the, maybe these were printed from somewhere else, but the ones that are here have the rules on the back. Okay, just making sure, because some of them didn't. And you'll bring your form forward to Ms. Dwelly, and I have a stack that has started. It's this board's practice that if you wish to pull something, speak to an agenda item, if you'll let us know that, we will pull it in order to allow you to speak. The consent agenda items include curriculum and instruction, finance and business services, human resources, and operations. And remember, you must get the form to us prior to the approval of the consent agenda in order for us to pull that item. This time, I'll also ask you to silence any electronic device you have with you, phone, computer. This meeting was properly advertised in the Pensacola News Journal on August 3rd, 2020, legal notice number 4305947. It is the tradition of the Escambia County School Board to begin our meeting with an invocation or a motivational moment, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. This month, it is my opportunity to lead us. In a moment, I will ask you to stand to join me in a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. In our silence, and if you're like me, you may pray, I hope you will think of the amazing men and women who are teaching our students, of our employees who have worked all summer to get our classrooms, buses, and facilities prepared to provide as safe an environment as we possibly can. The men and women in our community and our country that are on the front lines daily in the struggle with this unknown enemy. None of us know what tomorrow may bring, but we all strive to be the best version of ourselves every day. So please rise in a moment of silence. Thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. At this time, we will move to the adoption of the agenda. Mr. Thomas, are there any additions or deletions?
There's one change on page 2 under curriculum, section K, workforce education. Item 1 was amended, and that would be all of the changes.
Thank you. My board members have state statutes and school board rules require that changes made to the agenda after publications be based on a finding of good cause determined by the person presiding over the meeting and stated in the record. Is there any objection to the changes to the agenda? Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended for good cause at this meeting?
I move we adopt the amended agenda for this meeting.
Mr. Slayton, is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Any discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Approve 5-0.
At this time, we move to our agenda item committee and departmental reports. We have with us tonight our PTA presentation, our president, Mary Kerwin. Good evening.
Evening. Ms. Chairman, school board members, superintendent, and staff.
Our PTAs are gearing up for the start of this unique school year. PTA teams are busy looking for new and innovative ways to engage and advocate for our students, teachers, and parents. As you know, participation in PTA creates a culture of involved parenting, leading to better student behavior and grades and happy teachers. Escambia County PTA is working hard to ensure our local units are fostering a long-term commitment to parental involvement at the school level, whether it's traditional or virtual. Part of that is working with local leaders in our community to ensure that this year is not only a great academic year, but also safe for all involved. We have worked closely with the COVID-19 Pediatric Task Force to address concerns that parents have for this upcoming school year. I would like to invite Dr. Michelle Greerhall, Director of Pediatrics at Community Health Northwest Florida, to share what the team has marked as areas of concern.
Welcome, Dr. Greerhall. That's right. I forgot to tell everybody to kind of be, when you come to the mic, give him a moment to sanitize the area. Good evening.
Madam Chair, Mr. Thomas, and board members, thank you so much for this opportunity. Dr. Michelle Greerhall with Community Health Northwest Florida, and I want to say thank you for this opportunity to address you this evening about some of the concerns that we local pediatricians have had concerning the reopening of schools. I come to you as a product of Escambia County School Districts 30 plus years ago from Washington High School Wildcats, and also as a mom and as a local pediatrician. So I come to you from different perspectives, but I also come to you as part of our pediatric COVID-19 task force to address some of the concerns that we've had, and we're so happy we could partner with the local PTA, with our Escambia County Council PTA on these items. Some of the concerns that we as a task force would like to hope to discuss and hopefully have up for your consideration are, we want to make sure that our parents and the caregivers should understand the full spectrum of the risk involved in both in-person and virtual learning options. We also want to make sure that our parents and caregivers are doing daily self-monitoring, and this is something we feel strongly should be required, and all of our recommendations have been taken from the CDC guidelines. We just felt like the CDC, when you go to that website, it's so overwhelming, and we wanted to condense it and try to put it in a format which would be easier for our parents and hopefully our students to interpret a little bit easier. So this daily self-monitoring, we feel like should be something that's required, and we actually put together some items for a sample daily self-monitoring, just asking each parent to check your child, see if they have any symptoms at all, and if they do have symptoms, don't send them to school. If there has been any exposure in the home or a family member of COVID-19, don't send your child to school. And this is something we feel very strongly should be implemented at the beginning of the school year, having parents do a daily self-monitoring to see if that child should be seen by the physician before going to school. We also feel like students exposed to COVID-19, such as a family member, should automatically know not to come to school, and that's included in the self-monitoring tool. Students who are at risk should not attend school. We know in the past we have a lot of children who have attended school with runny noses, colds, coughs, so we really want to make sure that it's emphasized this year that that cold, that cough could be COVID-19 and could put others at risk, especially our teachers and the staffs at the school. So we want to make sure that the children know not to go to school, the parents know not to send their children to school with these illnesses, which they might have sent them in the past, and that there's a signed acknowledgement to this fact that the parents understand that this is going to be something implemented this school year. So if they could sign something saying they are aware and acknowledge this, I think that would be beneficial to us this year. Cloth face masks, of course, should be required when possible. Cloth face masks should be an essential part of the school supply list. If it's not already on there, we feel like that should be part of the essential school supply list. And of course, for those students who do not have access to masks, this is something the school district can supply for those children, and making sure the students and the parents know how to wear the mask correctly over the face and the nose, and also how to keep those clean. And in the memo, we've included some information about that. We want to make sure also that at each school there's a designated area that's dedicated for children who are ill and who may need to be in isolation, but also a part of the clinic that's also dedicated for those who may need to come in and get medications, especially our diabetic patients, because we want to make sure that those children are not transmitting any diseases to the children just coming to get medication. So we want to make sure there's a dedicated isolation area for those children who may be identified as being ill when they do arrive to school. We want to also make sure we provide education to parents on the strategies that are already been done. We know you all are doing a lot of different strategies, but we want to make sure that they're aware so we can reassure. They're coming in asking us as pediatricians, is it okay to go to school? And I think the more transparent your mitigation strategies are, that's going to help the parents feel more comfortable to know that you're taking those measures as far as doing a screening daily, making sure you're social distancing the children at school when possible, avoiding overcrowding, washing hands, cleaning, disinfecting frequently touched surfaces, you having hand sanitizer available, and any other measures that you're taking. But the more transparent that mitigation process is, the better. We feel like if the school districts could also provide information on testing sites to the families and to the parents on those testing sites when the children get sick, and the myscambia.com site is updated on a daily basis. That's a good resource for parents, and we feel like that's something that should be available, easily accessible to parents to go to. We know as the school year as we go into cold and flu season, a lot of children are going to be coming in sick, and they're going to be coming in with symptoms, but we want to make sure that they're able to get tested rapidly. So we, as local pediatricians and along with the health department, we are working on some ways to hopefully provide quicker testing available for our patients and our parents that are coming in. So that is something we know is going to be needed, rapid testing for COVID-19, and that's going to be ongoing. And so hopefully we'll be able to have some better answers for you with that. We also want to make sure we provide clear and concise information to parents on what's going to happen when a child becomes ill at school. And so that should be something that's very clear, so parents know they will get a call to come pick that child up if that child presents ill. And then also what happens when a child or a staff member at school has been diagnosed with COVID-19, as far as what children will be quarantined and which children will be needing to go home if they are in close contact with that child. So I think that those guidelines would need to be very clear and upfront to parents, and also posting all of this information on the website for Escambia County School Districts, also on any social media, and also sending out a mass call to parents to make sure that they're all aware of the new guidelines. But we're presenting this information because we want to be a resource. The local pediatricians, we met, and as a task force, we want to be available to be a resource for our community, for our patients, for our families, and we want to let you know we are here for you all to support you in this endeavor. We know it's going to be an interesting, different year, and we're hoping to make it a smooth transition for our parents, but we are here. We want to be a source of information, and also, bring awareness to the need to do things a little different this year so we can keep our families, our children, our patients safe and from COVID-19. So we have partnered with the PTA. We'll be working with them on some really wonderful things coming up that you'll hear more about, some activities for the children to get them excited and motivated to come back to school, because we know we have to send them back to school. We know that is part of what we need to do, but we want to make sure we do it as safe as possible. So we want to be here for you all. If there's anything we can do for you, please let us know. Our task force is here to serve our community and take care of our patients. So thank you so much for taking the time to listen to these recommendations, and if there's anything we can do, please let us know.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. You have one more thing, yeah. Board members, you do have a copy of what they put together, and I will say that I've had some discussion with Mr. Thomas and Ms. Hannah, and they're going to be looking at these pieces, this information, and creating some additional resources for parents that will be available on our website. Ms. Kerwin.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Greer-Hall. We'll be posting this recommendation on our social media accounts. Please be on lookout on our Facebook page, as we will be hosting a Q&A for concerned parents where the COVID-19 Pediatric Task Force will be answering questions. Escambia County PTA will also be hosting our online training for PTAs this year. It is currently scheduled for September. We look forward to meeting the superintendent candidates on August 28th, where the PTA will be providing lunch. Thank you for the invitation. Escambia County Council welcomes transparency, communication, and to be a part of the solution. On behalf of Escambia County Council of PTAs, our local PTAs, our PTSA units, we appreciate the partnership and look forward to a great school year. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Thomas, did you have anything else you wanted to
No,
add to what
no,
I said?
no,
Okay.
no.
All right. At this time, we will move into public forum. I will remind you the purpose of public forum is to give members of the community an opportunity to address the school board. If any of you are not here and have things you want to share with the school board, you can call us or send us an email at any time. In this setting, usually we will not engage in answering questions or in a dialogue, but your concerns will be noted. Ms. DeWeese, our recording secretary, sends us your contact information the next day, and so we would be able to follow up with you. Speakers must adhere to the guidelines printed on the reverse of the speaker form. You are all given 3 minutes. The timer is here. Ms. Buswell, our assistant, runs the timer. Mr. Hammond is our board attorney, and he will be the parliamentarian. So the buzzer will sound when your time has elapsed. If you're not watching, we just ask that you finish up as quickly as you can. Back when I went to school, we always got a ruler that said, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So I just want you to keep that in mind as you come forward. Tonight, our first speaker is Mr. Richard Hunter. And will be, there are things on the floor. Is there anybody in the other room tonight, or is everybody in here that has a speaker that's speaking?
I believe they're all in here, but we'll double check.
Okay, because there are markings on the rug to keep you 6 feet apart. And the speaker after Mr. Hunter will be Chelsea Alberto. So, and again, give them time to sanitize the mics and the podium before you come forward. Mr. Hunter.
Thank you, Chairman Hightower.
Be sure that the mic is where we can hear you.
How's that?
That's better, thank you.
All righty. My name is Richard Hunter. I am a middle school science teacher and science fair mentor here in Escambia County. On February 26th of this year, I told colleagues that scientists were warning exponential spread of COVID-19 was certain unless testing, tracing, and full quarantine occurred. COVID spreads by microscopic aerosols. That's well known at this point. Aerosols increase with time as long as the spreader is present. Infection is inevitable. It will happen because social distancing, cloth masks, and face shields do not block aerosols, only make infection take a little longer, and I sent relevant scientific papers to Chairman Hightower. This mask in my hand is the only type known to provide nearly 100% protection. There are extremely few of them around. Florida law prohibits school boards from sending anyone into harm's way. I've been told that you guys already discussed that, and it specifies both criminal and civil penalties for violations. Officials do not have immunity for official acts when they knowingly endanger people. Remote learning done well is as good or better than in-person instruction. I can tell you that from my experience. It is also completely safe and will work for the 6 months while we wait for a vaccine. In-person instruction in a CDC red zone is absolutely unsafe. The governor cannot take your funding away forever. He doesn't have authority to do that under Florida statutes, and you can sue him to get the money. You'll get it eventually. But if you disable and kill children and families, you will be reviled until the end of time.
Thank you, Mr. Hunter. I have the information you sent me, so. After Miss Alberta, it will be Cynthia Brown. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Chelsea Alberta. I'm a teacher in Escambia County, and I'm here to speak first about the district's choice to cancel almost all after-school activities, and then about the current contract memo of understanding negotiations for teachers. First, I'd like to express my disappointment in the decision to cancel all after-school activities except sports for the first 9 weeks. I understand that the FHSAA has decided to allow sports to continue against the advice of their own Sports Medicine Advisory Committee. By allowing contact sports like football and sports played inside poorly ventilated gyms, but not allowing after-school activities and clubs that could easily mask up and social distance, it's clear that sports are getting preferential treatment. Ignoring the dangers of sports while also ignoring the needs of students who do other after-school activities appears to be blatant favoritism. Now on to the contract negotiations. There are some very reasonable demands being made that have been thus far shut down. We are requesting to have remote students count the same as face-to-face students. Not counting online students the same is partially responsible for Santa Rosa laying off almost 100 teachers by packing remote students into larger classes with the same expectations of teachers. Counting remote students less than face-to-face students is devaluing those students and ignoring the equal work required by teachers to teach them. It would be an insult to the students, teachers, and parents who want the best education for our students. Continuing the acknowledgement of the extra work teachers will face this year, I support a small stipend to teachers who are required to quite literally do twice the work with a blended classroom. To clarify, a blended classroom means that a teacher will need to teach 2 full-sized classes, one in person and one online, simultaneously. They will be expected to teach 2 classes at once, answering all student questions, managing behavior, grading all the work for double the class. A stipend seems a small compensation for that work. My next concern has to do with respecting teacher privacy and protecting us from unreasonable punishments. The union is advocating for teachers to be notified when video cameras or recording equipment is installed in our classrooms. We have a right to know if and when we are being recorded, and frankly, I don't understand why this was opposed by the district's side when it was brought up. We also want training for any recording or video equipment that we will be expected to use for blended or remote learning. This request, as well as the request for a teacher to be held harmless for any malfunction of equipment that isn't due to negligence, has also been struck. My concern is that I cannot expect to be trained on how to use required video or recording equipment, but that I can be held responsible if something goes wrong with the equipment that I have not been trained how to use. It seems to me that everything that so far has been struck in the memo of understanding is setting teachers up with an almost impossible job of teaching 2 classes at once without proper training or support. It wouldn't be right to ask more than we can do, offering no incentives and no protections if something goes wrong. So I hope that on the district side, they will reconsider the proposals by the union, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. After Ms. Brown will be Debbie Springer. Good evening, Ms. Brown.
Good evening. Good evening, Chairwoman Hightower, board members, Superintendent Thomas. I'm grateful to be here tonight to have this opportunity to speak. And let me start off by saying, I'm proud to work in Escambia County. I'm proud to teach at Global Learning Academy. And I'm proud to have a daughter who goes to Dade High School. I was stunned last week when our neighbors in Santa Rosa County announced that they were releasing 80+ teachers just days before school started. I appreciate the commitment that Superintendent Thomas has had and this board has made to keep all units at schools, and his pledge to make sure that face-to-face classroom sizes are low. Now more than ever, classroom sizes make a difference. I was also extremely pleased to see the buckets that were filled with supplies to help the classroom teachers sanitize their classrooms. I have friends in South Florida that posted 1 bottle of Lysol placed on a desk, and they were told it needed to last. And so again, it makes me proud that Escambia County is stepping up and doing what they need to do when others around us aren't. Yesterday was the first normal day for teachers back at school. Normally, I would be welcoming old friends, smiling, laughing, catching up on summer activities. But staying with the theme of 2020, the teacher's first day back this year was very different. You see, I've been working with my grade level, my team, for several weeks now, trying to figure out this new normal and plan for instruction. Most of the teachers at my school spent the last 2 to 3 weeks at school planning and training. Much of that time was on their own time. And we had a lot of traditional teachers step up and also learn how to do remote classes just in case. We're all learning new ways to teach. Remote teachers are learning new delivery techniques, as well as a new management system that comes with kids being at home. Traditional face-to-face teachers are learning new procedures and safe practices for in-person learning, while virtual teachers are learning new platforms and a different style of teaching. We all are feeling like first-year teachers. As it comes time to bargain, I want to remind the board of all the times that teachers have stepped up. We've been there for our students, and we've done what's best for them. They have, and they always will be, our #1 priority. And that's why we're asking the school board to step up for us and to look out for our best interests too. Ron DeSantis has called this the year of the teacher. Is it really the year of the teacher, or just another year of unreasonable expectations? Are we going to get the short end of the stick? Now is the time to really shine and be the pride of the Panhandle, to be the place where teachers want to teach and students want to learn. Thank you.
Thank you. After Ms. Springer will be Kim Garman.
Good evening. First, I'd like to thank the school board, Superintendent Thomas, and the district staff who've been working hard to prepare for the upcoming school year. I appreciate the preparations that have been made for safety and the options that have been made available for families. Now the teachers need some support for implementing these options. Of particular concern to me is the blended model I will be providing in my ESE classroom. Our union has made some requests for support in materials and training. At this time, I have one laptop in my classroom, and it needs to be used to share materials with my face-to-face students. I have nothing yet for sharing instruction with my remote students, so I have no idea how whatever I'm going to get is going to work, where I'm going to put it, or how I'm going to use it. The blended model of instruction requires a lot of extra prep work. Even before school has started, I've created 2 different virtual Meet the Teacher presentations for my students, and we'll have 2 different parent-teacher meetings. As the school year progresses, this won't change. Hands-on lessons for one group, virtual lessons for the other, printed texts in the classroom, uploaded PDFs for my virtual students. Finally, I'm concerned for the privacy of my face-to-face students and that their needs need to be taken into consideration. As an ESE teacher, I was cautioned in the spring against having whole group Google Meets or having students upload videos that might allow parents to hear about other students' disabilities and educational needs. These precautions were repeated during our ESE training today. Teachers have been instructed to remind virtual students that other parents shouldn't, but might, record sessions, and that other parents might also be viewing the session their student is in. But to my knowledge, the parents of the traditional students who have remote students in their classroom have not been given the same courtesy. They haven't been notified of the potential violations of their child's privacy. One of my remote parents warned me today that her child might yell and strip naked. I reminded her that she can mute her microphone and turn her camera off at any time. But if I have a student in the classroom who engages in that same behavior, my options to protect that child's privacy are limited. In addition, attempts to keep my traditional students off camera to accommodate my remote students will limit their participation in activities. At this point, there needs to be made extra effort to ensure remote teachers have the equipment they need and time for teachers to develop some knowledge of how to use it. I think at the very least there needs to be some adjustment in the duties or compensation for the extra work, and we need assurances from the district that our students' privacy will be respected, and this blended model of teaching will be limited to as few classrooms for as short a period of time as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Springer. Excuse me. Ms. Garman is up next, and then it will be Ms. Maloney.
Members of the board, Malcolm Thomas.
You might need to pull it down just a little bit. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. I have a few, I am a teacher in Escambia County. I have a few concerns about the district not addressing some of the union's concerns about the cameras going into classrooms. When we have this blended model going on and you're taping in that classroom, I believe that you should let the other parents know. I think we need to worry about the privacy of our students that are in that classroom. We have multiple included students with disabilities. We are violating some of their rights to privacy by having this blended model where we've got kids with disabilities and regular kids in a classroom that's also being shared with a Google Classroom. Those teachers that are doing the blended model, they're doing double work. It takes a lot more preparation when you are having to do both the blended, the Google Classroom for your remote students and your in the classroom stuff. I teach younger students, so we do a lot of manipulatives, hands-on activities that you're not going to be able to do with your remote students. So you've got to design other activities as well as the ones you're doing for your in-classroom students. And it makes a whole lot more work for the teacher. I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of it and think that we should really look at how we're addressing this remote learning in our contract negotiations.
Thank you, ma'am. All right. After Ms. Maloney will be Darzell Warren. And if there's anyone else that wishes to speak at public forum, you need to get the form to us. Yes. Good evening.
Hello. My name is Marguerite Maloney, and I am a middle school teacher at Brown Barge in Escambia County. And I wanted to come tonight and say to the board some of my personal feelings about the return of teachers to the classroom. I am a scientist. Before coming to Escambia County, I was a college professor for about 20 years. So I'm not new to education, but I am new to Escambia County education. And I want to say to you that I do not feel protected by the measures that have been put forth. I don't feel that 5 cloth masks are going to protect me. I have also, with Mr. Hunter, purchased a respirator, which I intend to wear. I think that doing this due to political impetus is foolish, and I think that we will reap the cost. And I hope that you all recognize that you're making a mistake. And I can only ask you to revisit your decision, because I think that we will face dire consequences if we proceed with this. That's all I really have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last speaker form I have is Ms. Warren. Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Superintendent Thomas, and board members. A little over a month ago, I stood before you along with several other teachers who advocated for the wearing of a face covering. At that time, we were saying mask. We were told after that meeting that a face covering would be worn by employees and students when social distancing was not possible. I appreciate the fact that Superintendent Thomas sent out an email yesterday reminding everyone what the expectation was as far as wearing the face coverings. It's also outlined in the reopening plan. At this time, I would like to say and have it put on record that in some instances it is being reckless in some cases where teachers are being told that it is optional, that students cannot be told to put on a face covering. Teachers are going above and beyond at this moment. They spent numerous hours during the springtime. I know that myself because I was one of those teachers who was spending hours after that 3 o'clock time frame, who were still talking to parents after 6 o'clock when Go Guardian was shut down. Right now, they're overwhelmed because of everything that they're having to do with the reopening of schools. They're anxious, they're scared. There's still the excitement of waiting to meet their students, whether it is in the classroom, whether it's virtual, whether it is remote. But they are at their breaking point. I listened to Mr. Leonard on Friday say at this time that the number of teachers who have asked for a leave of absence has doubled this year. If the message is going to be that it's optional for a face covering, we're going to have teachers who are going to leave. We're going to have more who are going to walk out because they are unwilling to take that chance. And in closing, I would like to say something that I always heard my mom and dad say to us: to whom much is given, much is required. I would like to flip that around and say, to whom much is given, many teachers are feeling right now, much is not being given to them.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas, did you want I know we don't normally do anything with public forum, but the privacy issue, or is there anything that they brought up that you would like to set the record
we're
straight?
working through that with special education. Mrs. Affron's in her office. She sent me a text. We're working with Julie Weatherly, who is one of the premier special education attorneys, to draft what we need to be saying to all those parents so that we are covering that privacy concern for both teachers and students.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah, I've made some notes, and I may be following up with some of you to get some more information. Mr. Thomas, you and I talked today about if people are seeing someone that is not following the recommended use of, they can report those people anonymously through our hotline. Is that correct?
You can report anything through the hotline. If you go through the hotline, dial that number, you can report anonymously, but you give us the details, it will be investigated, and we'll address it.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board at this point? Okay. All right, thank you all for being here. I forgot to say at the beginning that we're going to move up the item on the selection of the appointed superintendent finalist. And at this time, we will move to that item. Board members, you have paper in front of you. And I'm going to let Ms. Messina, the Executive Director of the Florida School Boards Association and the lead on our search team. Do you have a mic in front of you, or do you need to go to the You've got one.
I think
Okay.
I have a mic.
All right, so Ms. Messina is going to lead us through this process. Thank you so much for being here.
Yes, and thank you for having me. It's an exciting night, and I know that in your community, elections are going on. But for us here tonight, the selection of the finalists in your superintendent search is what we're going to be focusing on right now. And, we started off with 27 applicants, and then your community advisory committee brought you 6. One of them, candidate number 23, Dr. Vincent Cotter, has withdrawn due to some family obligations, sends his warmest personal regards and best wishes, and knows that you all will find a good superintendent, wishes that he could have remained in consideration. But with us tonight, the way we're going to do this is we're going to talk about each of the candidates first. And then once we've talked and discussed the strengths that you all see in each of the candidates, if you have a question, maybe about a candidate, not necessarily that requires an answer, but maybe you have a question like, I wonder if this person has had enough time in the county office or something along those lines, you can certainly share that with your peers. I would ask that we try to remain positive. These are people who have put themselves out there. These are highly skilled professionals who've had professional careers and all sorts of accolades. And so we're not trying to discredit anyone. We're simply trying to find those with the best match and fit for this community in this school district. So if you don't mind, we'll start with candidate number 6, Marcase Stewart, and happy to hear board thoughts on Mr. Stewart.
Board members? Dr. Edler?
I don't have a problem starting.
Can you pull that so it's really close to you? Thank you, ma'am.
Trying to get up closer to it.
I know. These chairs are hard to move.
I have done what I have done for all of the candidates. I looked at their written information. I heard what they said on the video. And now I believe it's important for me to see them in person so that I have a complete package that I'm looking at rather than one aspect. So for all of these individuals that I will choose for my people to bring back, I have looked at the needs of this district, what I believe the needs are. Dropout prevention, turnaround schools, diversity and inclusion, all of those areas plus some more that I looked at. And then I looked at the information that they provided to see if they would bring that to the district. And so the strengths is based on those items that I believe address the needs of the district, and that would be for all of them. In terms of number 6, when I looked at his video, I felt that he was comfortable in his presentation. He was confident in what he had to say, and he answered all of the questions. And so I would want to bring him into the district.
Any other comments on Mr. Stewart? I mean, number 6. I did the same due diligence as I'm sure all of us did. And I want to just say one thing. It's kind of a global comment. Looking at the videos for like the 3rd time yesterday, I was noticing how many people have viewed those videos. And I just think it was a real statement to of our community. There were over 500 people that had viewed every one of the videos. And I just think that's amazing that they're engaged that way. When I reviewed his information, I liked the varied experience he had as both assistant principal and principals. He's also a graduate of Escambia schools. I thought he had great presence and a lot of evidence of working in diverse settings. I specifically love the fact that he used the word scholars instead of students. That said to me that he really truly believes that all students can learn. he gave evidence in his presentations, the answers to the question of having experience with restorative justice, and also the relationship with the workforce ed with the business community. So those were some of the positive things that I found about this particular candidate. Anyone else? Okay, no one else? Okay.
All right, we can move to number 13, Dr. Earl Johnson.
My review of Dr. Johnson's background and experiences, I think he's a very strong candidate. I think that he's served in some challenging situations, and he's been very successful. His experience in Florida laws and regulations, and having been a career educator in Florida, I think is a very positive and a promising thing, and I look forward to interviewing him further.
Anyone else?
I do agree with his amount of experience in more than one area. It looks like he has spent most of his life developing and working with a number of different programs, a number of different areas, and he has a grasp of the needs of his county and of our county. And so I thought, brought forth, I did not find he had a great deal of experience, shall we say, in the county office. I think that there were some areas in probably finance and operations that he would have to learn, but we all have to learn. Thank you.
Anyone down here have anything to add? Okay. One of the things that I liked is that he is part of their district task force on this COVID. So I think that would be very valuable for somebody new coming into an area in this particular moment in time to know that they have been involved with this process with reopening schools and the health department. I like the fact that he also talked about developing methods to plan for succession, realizing that you develop your future leaders within the ranks of the people that you have. I also enjoyed reading his article that was in the Florida Association of School Administrators. I was going to use the acronym, but I thought I better not. Talking about the opportunity gap. And I really want to have some more conversation with him. So.
Okay. The next one would be number 17, Keith Rattel.
Anyone? Mr. Slayton?
Well, I think it's obvious that he's our only candidate that is presently in the position. And I thought that his answers brought forth a lot of wisdom, a lot of experience, and that he's been kind of through the fire himself and come out okay. His experience is dealing with a enlarging school district, anything that's gone from 13,000 students to 18,000 students. He undoubtedly has been busy building and doing things. So I think should be an interesting gentleman to talk to.
Any other comments? I too realized that he was the only one that's actually a sitting superintendent. He made the point in his application that the state he resides in has started using the Florida grading system, so he has some familiarity with that. He also is part of a school board that's a master board designation, so I thought he knows how to work with the school board if he's been through that training. He also pointed out that he has some experience working with the military community. And again, he too believes in long-term succession planning. He pointed out that he visits the schools. And one thing that I liked, when I was going over these applications, I would go to the district website and kind of look at the way the communication piece from each of the district websites. And I will tell you, if you have not been to that website, you need to go and look at it. He does, because he mentions that communication is the key to improving culture at school and in the community. And I felt like I really wanted to have some more conversation with him about those issues.
Okay. Next, we'll move to Dr. Timothy Smith.
I'm not sure if he was there. I had the opportunity to visit Winter Park High School at one time, looking at some programs they were using. And like I said, I'm not sure if he was there. It seems that he has gone from that position to being more of, I call it, I guess, director of secondary education, but he's...
Only over half of them. Only over half of the 20 schools.
That's enough.
Yeah.
But, you know, he has understood, he has worked with principals, he has worked with large budgets, he's understands curriculum, and I would say he understands facilities. If he's been a high school principal at Winter Park, which I think runs in the 3,000 range
it does.
of attendances.
Yeah.
So a gentleman that I don't have any problem saying I probably want to see him again.
Mr. Fetzko?
He also is a candidate that I look forward to having a conversation with and interviewing further. I also saw the irony in his dissertation, which was provided. For those who may not have read it, his dissertation was elected versus appointed superintendent, and very timely.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. If you wanted to go through 175 pages, yes.
So,
Which I did.
I look forward to having further discussion with Dr. Smith.
I agree. It'd be interesting. I want to have future. Maybe Paul, and that we can have a one-on-one question on his on what he wrote.
I too want to have the opportunity to talk some more with Dr. Smith, because when I was reading his dissertation, I want to know whether he's an adapter or an innovator. That was part of the wording there. I also like the fact that he comes from a large district. He's in Florida. He has, he's got all the education degrees, but his undergraduate degree was in business. So I think that sends a lot of, that helps us to know that. He also mentioned the military, needing to address the military and being sure that we communicate well with the military. And it wasn't his own philosophy, but it was a philosophy that he got from one of his mentors. Make decisions as if each student is your own child. And I thought, I need to have a talk with this gentleman. It seems to have that great philosophy.
Next would be candidate number 19, Keith Leonard.
Well, I think it's easy to say a little bit of advantage there in knowing Escambia County, but I think it goes much farther than that. He knows Escambia County, he knows Florida, and he knows how to be part of the educational program of this county. So I watched the videos with an eye of anybody else kind of blinding myself, and I really was pleased with the thoughts he brought forth. I was very pleased with the ease of communication, that he was right on point in the things that he started talking about, and undoubtedly been thinking about some things. So I'm looking forward to that one too.
Mr. Fetzko?
I too look forward to having a conversation with Mr. Leonard. I know that many times that there have been conversations in the past, but they stay within a certain confine. And so I don't know what he knows about other things, and I look forward to finding out what his vision is and what his experiences have been in other areas other than just human resources. I also am very mindful of comments that have been made by a number of people saying that, and you had referenced from earlier one of the candidates talking about growing your own and having people, and just because someone's from the district, we should not, I don't want to just dispel because he's homegrown. In fact, I think that's a positive. I think it's somebody who's been dedicated to this district and to this community and deserves to be heard.
Thank you.
I also thought he had a great video, and I look forward to talking to Mr. Leonard at the end of this process.
I will agree. He knows our county system. I thought his videos did an excellent job of relating his job experiences to the questions that were asked.
Okay, so then what I'd like to do next is you all each have a copy of the matrix, I think, in front of you. I'm going to call out the name of each of the board members, and if you could tell me the candidate number that you'd like to bring back for an interview, then we'll get it from each one of you. These are in district order, so I'll go with District 1, District 2, and then we'll look at the numbers and see where they fall to see where consensus lies. And if there's not full consensus and maybe only one or two of you want to bring somebody back, we'll have some conversation and see what you guys want to do with that. So, Mr. Adams.
Yes, number 6, number 18, and number 19.
Thank you. I have 6, 18, and 19. Mr. Fetzko.
13, 18, and 19.
Okay, 13, 18, and 19. Dr. Edler.
6, 13, 17, 18.
I have 6, 13, 17, 18. Ms. Hightower.
13, 17, 18.
I have 13, 17, 18. Mr. Slayton.
17, 18, 19.
I have 17, 18, 19. So if we can start with candidate number 18, all 5 of you would like to bring Dr. Timothy Smith in for an interview. So if it's okay with you, I'll kind of move him over to the finalist position, and then we'll in the end, we'll bring them all together, but we'll start with the candidate here that has 5. We've got 1, 2, 3 candidates, 3 finalists, I should say, where 3 board members would like to bring this finalists in for an interview. 3 is obviously a majority of the board. So we've got finalist number 13, Mr. Johnson, Dr. Johnson, finalist number 17, Mr. Rattel, and finalist number 19, Keith Leonard. Is it okay with the board if I move those 3 names over to the finalist column?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Dr.
Okay.
Adler, are you okay with that? Yes. Okay.
Then we have candidate number 6 has 2 board members who would like to bring him in for an interview. How would you like me to proceed with that candidate? Would either of you who would like to bring this candidate in like to advocate on his behalf? And board members, or any of you?
Well, can I speak? I think it's good to have at least 3 or more votes, so I'm willing to go with the board if they want to go with 4 for the, I'm not going to push the situation on that. So if it's the board's wish to just go with 3 votes for each one or more, then I'm fine with that.
Okay. Other board members?
One of the reasons I was reluctant, I think he's going to be an excellent superintendent at some point. This is our first appointed superintendent, and I was a little apprehensive about his lack of experience at the district level. Unless you know of something, he had a lot of varied leadership experience at the school level. But I didn't see a lot of it at the district level, and that was one reason I was a little reluctant to put him in the mix.
Other board members?
I will also echo that. That was my main thing. He's a young man who is really moving quickly, he's probably well liked and understood in his area, but no one has given him the opportunity to step to that next level. And that next level is a big step. So that's the reason I did not include him in mine.
Other board members? I didn't hear anyone say that they were willing to add their tally mark into the column to bring him in for an interview. So then, Madam Chair, what I hear from this board right now is consensus in bringing candidate number 13, Dr. Earl Johnson, number 17, Mr. Rattel, number 18, Dr. Smith, and number 19, Keith Leonard, in as finalists for interviews next week.
I could do this, I could say if there's no objection, we could do it this way, or if we would prefer, I can have you make a motion that we move, that the school board name Dr. Earl Johnson, Dr. Keith Riddell, Dr. Timothy Smith, and Mr. Keith Leonard as finalists to the position of the superintendent of schools.
Madam Chairman, I would like to move that the finalists for the appointed superintendent job be Dr. Earl Johnson, Keith Riddell, Dr. Timothy Smith, and Keith Leonard.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Approved 4-1.
Thank you so much. I'd like to just say one thing, invite the public to follow the district's social media accounts. The next step will be when the finalists come to Pensacola next week. They'll be arriving on Wednesday, as far as we know. And on Thursday, we will be doing interviews all day long. Those will be live streamed. They'll be available for you to watch from the comfort of your own home. And they will be archived so that you can watch them at a different time if that's not convenient for you. But if you'll follow the social media, it will tell you how you, the public, can get involved in asking questions to the candidates. Remember that we're going to do the meet and greet as a virtual event, and the day of the 27th, there'll be a way for the public to send questions in. If they have watched and want to ask additional questions, Ms. Messina will be here, and there will be an opportunity for each candidate to spend about 15 minutes with her answering the questions that you provide. So we'll be sending some more information about how that happens. The link will be mostly will be live on Thursday the 27th. So again, if you're interested and you don't get the information, please email us, call Ms. Buswell. She'll have everything that we need to know about that event. Okay. Right. Now back to the agenda. Our next item of business are the minutes of the meetings, of July meetings, July 20th, July 21st, and July 28th.
Madam Chairman, I move the adoption of the listed minutes for the 3 meetings.
Thank you, Mr. Slayton.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. Fetzko. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, please vote.
Approved 5-0.
Excuse me. There's no unfinished business. Moving on to the new business, we have one item for adoption, amendments to the school district's student progression plan. I would ask, is there anyone here to speak to public hearing? I don't have any forms. I just want to make sure. Okay, board.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the notice of intent to adopt
No,
amendments.
you're just going to adopt the amendments.
To adopt the amendment to the student progression plan.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Any further discussion? Please vote.
Approved 5-0.
The next item of business, permission to advertise amendments to the exceptional student education policies and procedures.
Madam Chair, I'll move to permission to advertise as stated in the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Slayton. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Approved, 5-0.
We are now at consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So move.
Thank you, Mr. Slayton. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Are there any items to be pulled from the consent agenda? Under curriculum. I think Dr. Edler has an item to pull. Okay. I believe it is.
Operation.
I think it's in purchasing, isn't it?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I have it in the wrong place. Yes. Okay. Sorry about that.
Yeah, 4-2C.
I've got VB 4A 2C. And we have a speaker on VB 3C1. That's under risk management. So I have that we have pulled items VB4A2C, which is under operations, and we have pulled an item under risk management, VB3C1. Are there any additional items to be pulled from the consent agenda? Seeing none, are we ready to vote? Please vote.
Approved, 5-0.
Normally, I would not have the speaker speak before we have a motion on the floor, but the motion might need to be amended.
You'd still have.
Or
a
could I,
motion.
yeah, yes, would somebody make the motion,
I'd
please?
like to make a motion that we approve under risk management, the benefits administration software platform.
I will second the motion.
Thank you both. Our speaker is David Falkenberry. Please come forward.
Excuse me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Chair, board members, Mr. Superintendent, my name is David Falkenberry, and thank you very much for the time to speak with you today. I'm the president of FBMC Benefits Management, and for many years, our company has had the pleasure of delivering employee benefit services to the school district. I grew up in Pensacola, went to Bellevue Elementary and Middle School, and Pine Forest High School, and still consider Pensacola my true home. FBMC is a benefits administration and consulting company, and we recently celebrated 44 years in business, and we were founded specifically to service K through 12 school districts. And we are strong supporters of the associations that support Florida Public Schools. The purpose of my speaking with you today is to ask that you delay voting on item VB3C.1, which is the district's procurement for benefits administration services. My company replied to this procurement, and through the procurement process, we noted several unusual items. To answer our questions, we asked for a public records request on July 22nd, and we were notified late Friday afternoon on the 14th that we could pick up those records. Given the time requirements in the procurement rules to preserve our rights, we did file an intent to protest. We are reviewing the documents now, and in our initial review, we continue to have many unanswered questions. Some of our questions center around inaccuracy in pricing comparisons, unusual procurement processes, and inconsistent negotiations with many other companies who responded to the RFP. Given these and many unanswered questions, we will ask for additional records. And through my 9 years as president at FBMC, we have never filed a protest. And we certainly do not take that lightly. However, because of those questions, we felt it was appropriate. I have tremendous respect for you and Escambia County Schools. It's what made me today, and the risk management staff. And we have always appreciated our partnership. But under these circumstances and given all of the unanswered questions, I respectfully ask that you simply delay the vote on this item until all of the questions can be answered. Given my limited time, I will conclude my remarks, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. And thank you very much for your time, and we look forward to continuing our relationship with the school district.
Thank you, sir. No questions? No questions? Okay, thank you. Mr. Hammond, you want to go to the mic and explain where we need to be at this moment? And forgive me for putting an S on your name again. Sorry.
Mentioning would come under School Board Rule 5.02 or 13. And that points out that in the event there are services that are subject of an invitation to bid or an RFP, the question comes up then is, are those services essential? In other words, is there a need to do something at this time? Or alternatively, are they services that can be delayed and addressed at another time? Which is, I think, what Mr. Falkenberry is requesting. I don't have the knowledge of what's essential or what's not. That's certainly up to the administration and the board. So the board has the option to either delay, or if they find the services are essential and cannot be delayed, then they can vote to approve or disapprove the contract. If they vote to approve the contract, it can be subject to whatever disposition there is in the event of a bid protest and the resolution of that protest.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas?
My recommendation is that these are essential services. This is closely tied into open enrollment, which typically happens in the months of September and October, has to be completed by the year's end. I would recommend that you approve it. The protest can run its course. And if there's a different disposition, we've had this before, but I think we have to be in a position where we can offer our employees all their options for their health benefits and other options that they would choose.
Any questions, comments? Would someone be willing to offer the amendment to add to the motion that we approve, subject to any, subject to any timely filed protest and the outcome of the filing? Would that work, Mr. Hammond? Okay.
Just question, is that necessary?
Mr. Hammond, when I had a conversation with Mr. Hammond earlier today, he suggested that we add that language to the motion so that, you're the attorney, not me. I just live with one.
Yes, I mean, our system allows, and the rule allows for people to file a notice of protest. There's actually no protest filed yet. Then again, the time period for that has not expired. There's a notice of intent to do so, and I think the appropriate measure is because what you're doing is approving a contract, but you don't want to approve it with finality if it's subject to possibility that it could change. So you approve the contract with the awardee, which is benefits focus, subject to the outcome of any protests. And that, as you know, that goes through the appointment of an administrative law judge to hear evidence as to whether there's anything that would justify a change.
But this does not delay the actions.
Does we are approving it and they move forward as if we have approved. Is that correct?
If, with the understanding that the benefits are essential, they're not something that can reasonably be delayed, then that process is going to move forward. However, the person, the company that receives the award knows that it is subject to a further issue.
Who makes the determination that it's essential? When the superintendent put that on the record that he deems it to be an essential operation, is that all that we need? Is that the legal?
Yes, I think
Okay.
the superintendent's representation and the board's acceptance of that representation.
Mr. Fetzko, did you have a question or a comment? I saw you take your mask off, so.
I did, and I guess that we can always undo something that we've done, but at this point, we have several hundred new employees who will be needing to go through the benefits package and making decisions and getting enrolled now at the start of the school year. And then the changeover for anybody who's currently working, if they want to make changes to those plans. I don't know if the delay, if we wait and we have to go through an administrative law judge, that could take months and months. So it leaves us kind of in limbo if we don't move forward. My understanding.
Any other comments, Mr. Adams?
Well, I'm not a lawyer either, but I'm sitting here wondering if we should go ahead and approve this. And I mean, anything that we approve, somebody could protest it, right? I mean, any type of contract we approve, you can have a bid protest.
Not necessarily any contract, but in this particular kind of contract where there is a provision. For example, you can direct negotiate some of these services, but that's not what was done here. We went through an invitation for bids. It was not an RFP where you're going out to the community, but they directed inquiries to, I think, 6 vendors, 6 companies, and received responses. And so once headed down that path, then it is subject to a protest, and there may be a position where the school district might take the position this is not actually subject to a protest, but that's not a decision that we make. That's a decision that an administrative law judge that's appointed would make. I gave Mr. Thomas the example of back when the law changed and they put a provision in the statute that teachers on probation for so many days, and then there was a case where a teacher said, well, I was past those days, and the board said, no, you weren't, and we let you go without cause, and so you don't get a hearing, and the First District Court of Appeals said, yes, you do, about whether or not you were past those days. So the final decision about was it done properly, is there a valid basis for challenging the decision, or is there a right to protest, period, under the circumstances of this offering, would be made by an administrative law judge with a recommended order.
But I think the question tonight is the superintendent has recommended us to approve this contract.
Yes.
And that's the question.
And we've been here before on other, but not for necessarily for insurance benefits, but for other contracts where there might have been a potential bid protest. And if those services were essential, for example, cleaning schools, custodial contracts, it's essential. If you stop that, it's going to create a health hazard. If you don't move forward with this and we don't have a firm handle on open enrollment for all of our health benefits, that's detrimental to employees. So I don't have an issue with the amendment that Mr. Hammonds has offered. You're just basically putting into the motion and the record what's common knowledge at this point. I'm recommending that these services are essential, that you approve them. There is a company that may file a protest that will run its course. Whether you put that part of the motion or not, that will still move forward.
Did I get a second to your motion, or did, okay.
I made the motion, and I would like to amend my motion to include the verbiage that Mr. Hammonds provided.
Mr. Weiss, do you have that language? Thank you. Just making sure. Okay.
Do I have to second that?
You do.
Second the amended motion.
Thank you. Actually, we have to vote on the amendment and then vote on the motion. So okay. Those in favor of the amendment to the motion, please vote.
Approved 5-0.
And the main motion now would be the approve the superintendent's recommendation with the added verbiage. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Approve 5-0.
Thank you. The next item is under, is it under
Operations.
Operations 4 to C. And do I have a motion? This is our lease agreement between the School Board of Escambia County and the Community Action Program Committee.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Fetzko. Is there any discussion? Dr. Edler is recusing herself because she sits on the board. Any other discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Approve 4-0.
Okay, moving to our next item of business. We have nothing from the board. We've already done that. Superintendent has no items.
A long time. Yes.
Good students, good faculties. We're doing well right now. Good employees.
Good employees, wow.
Yeah. We have nothing from internal auditing and nothing from the general counsel. Is there anything else from the board?
I would just take the opportunity for any parent that is watching, particularly if you're going to send your child to school next week in the traditional face-to-face. You can be a big help to us to keep school in session, keep our classes going. Help us by monitoring your students' health. If they're sick, if they're feverish, if they're not feeling well, this is not the year to push the limit. We'd ask that you would keep your child out of school. We will excuse all those absences and work with the school as we wear face coverings and try to protect all of our staff and our students, not only in our classroom but also on our school buses.
And to that point, I want to thank Ms. Hart. I mentioned to her at our meeting about a safety video for buses that I'd seen on some other websites, and she did it. It's there. So thank you so much, Mr. Dennis. She did a good job. So parents, if you go to escambiayellow.com, you can watch the video and know about how safe your students will be on our buses, in addition to the great safety record they have with driving. They're also keeping them safe in this time. Anything else? Thank you all for being here, and if there is no objection, we will adjourn.